Back to high school roundup, the final one of the season, and most likely my last one as well. I'm your host, John Sakaguchi. Join with me as always, my partner in crime, John Safe, for our last John and John in the afternoon. Safe, how you doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm having a great day, and I'm excited, like you said, for the final time this year to talk about some high school football. Plenty of great action, and I mean, it's just been a great year, and I'm very glad that we've been able to do it this year.
Yeah, and I'm guessing it's going to be you and Braxton next season and doing it. It's going to be weird not having me sitting in this chair. This has been my, I guess you could say it's been my studio child for the last 2 years.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll figure out. I have no idea. The last thing I'd like to think about right now is what I'm going to be doing next year.
Yeah, we got to talk about some stuff that already happened. Let's take a look at the scores from the WPIAL finals and some of the state playoff games so far that we have. Starting off here, Farrell taking on Westinghouse. Westinghouse undefeated still once again, and as they get another victory here in the playoffs, 34-6 over Farrell.
And then moving on, Central Valley taking on Aliquippa, and Aliquippa, the reigning champions, continuing their dominant run as they win 34-7. And then Avonworth faced off against Bell Vernon. And after a slow start to the season, Bell Vernon really picked it up, have been undefeated since about September time, and have cruised to a victory over Avonworth 24-7.
Yeah, moving on here now in the 2A WPIAL championship, Steel Valley and Beaver Falls. Beaver Falls takes the victory in this one, and as they Steel Valley takes the victory over Beaver Falls in this one, 34-14, and it was a quite the contest for the longest time. And then Union and taking on Bishop Canavan, and Union keeping this Cinderella story going, undefeated through the playoffs thus far, or in their last 3 games. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do in the state 8 playoffs, but we'll talk about those more, or let's see what's happening in the other state playoff games.
Yeah, then moving on, we had North Allegheny face off against State College, and State College proved to be too tough in the moment for North Allegheny as they win 28-7. And then Pine Richland faced off against Erie Cathedral Prep, and Pine Richland continuing their great run here in the WPIAL playoffs as they win that game 21-14.
And those are your scores from the playoffs thus far, and John. And a lot of close battles and a lot of upsets so far this season. I mean, what can we say? Union being the surprise school out of all of them, coming out as a Cinderella team, the 10th seed at that matter. And we were talking about how things shook out in that 2A bracket. We'll talk about that here shortly. But some of the other teams we kind of expected to win in Steel Valley, Bell Vernon were 2 that we predicted. Aliquippa, another one. And you had some surprises in like Union and North Catholic upsetting in the 5A bracket.
Yeah, we'll take a look at those brackets here in a little bit. But like you said, the biggest surprise being Union. I mean, 10th seed and facing off against a bunch of tough teams. And then in that final, facing off against Bishop Canavan, who had not lost a game all year, have been completely dominant. And then not only to get a win, but a win in that fashion, 52-0 in the championship game.
Yeah. So with that, let's take a look at the brackets to see how all our teams got to those spots. Starting off in 1A, Bishop Canavan on the left side of the bracket, it knocked off south side in a close, tight-knit battle there. I think they were separated by 14 points was the difference in that one. And so 2-score game, and Bishop Canavan would take that one and head all the way back to Acura Stadium. Union, who was taking on Rochester, who was having their own Cinderella story as a 14 seed that we didn't expect to see in a semi-final matchup, up a 10 and 14 in seeds. But Union prevails victorious in that one, and as they move on, and it would take on Bishop Canavan and then later be your WPIAL champions.
And then moving on to the 2A side of the bracket, Steel Valley just had the run of the table, just looking dominant, able to beat McGuffey after that bye. Then they beat Neshannock after Neshannock was able to beat Washington. Steel Valley just cruised to the title game on that left side. And then on the right side of the bracket, Beaver Falls and Stowe Rocks make their way all the way through. And to our producer, Gary, I want to insert a quick little video here of the Beaver Falls players after their big win over Stowe Rocks. So we're going to put that in right here. And then, but after that game, Stowe Rocks able to emerge victorious over, or Beaver Falls able to emerge victorious over Stowe Rocks, make it to that title game, but they do end up falling short.
And that one was a close one for sure. Or moving on here, as Bell Vernon ran the gauntlet here on the left side of the bracket in AAA. Back in the semifinal matchup against Freeport, got out to a commanding 24-0 lead before halftime, and then didn't look back. They didn't look back all the way to AccuSure Stadium, where they would take on Avonworth Earth, who on the right side of the bracket for AAA. Bell Vernon would come away as the victors in that one, and are getting ready for the state playoffs this week. But Avonworth Earth taking on a close one in Shadyside Academy with the victory on that one. After Shadyside had a tight, hard-fought battle against Elizabeth Forward 2 weeks prior to that.
Yeah, then moving on to the 4A bracket. On the left side, your defending champs, Aliquippa, continuing their monster season, faced off against McKeesport, who had a great season of their own, but ended up falling short in that semifinal matchup on that left side of the bracket. Then moving on to the right side of the 4A bracket, Central Valley able to emerge victorious after Thomas Jefferson, a great season for them, but they end up falling short in that semifinal game. And then Central Valley moved on to face Aliquippa, but Aliquippa just proved to be the better team in that game, and they were able to move on after and emerge victorious as the 4A champions.
And moving on now to 5A, as we look at how things shook out for the Whippeal finals in this one, and as Pine Richland knocks off Upper St. Clair, two teams that have been kind of writing that Cinderella story for themselves, as Pine Richland comes away with another Whippeal Old Championship and move on to the state playoffs. We'll talk about that game later with them. Moving on now to 6A.
And in the 6A bracket, pretty standard. The biggest upset being that Mount Lebanon Central Catholic game, as Central Catholic, the 3 seed, it would upset the 2 seed Mount Lebanon. And then moving on to that semifinal, or that final game, Central Catholic able to get the win in that one. So knocking off not only the 2 seed, but also the 1 seed in back-to-back games. And that meant Central Catholic was able to emerge victorious of the 6A group and move on to the state playoffs.
Yeah, and with that, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll take a look at the upcoming schedule and talk about those state playoff games here on High School Roundup here on CUTV and CUTV Sports 1, and we'll be back right after this. Hello everyone, welcome back to our final segment of High School Roundup for this episode and for the year. As we talked about the brackets and the scores from the previous week. So John, now we got to talk about everybody that's still in the state playoffs here. So let's take a look at those upcoming schedules.
Yeah, as we take a look at the upcoming schedule, these games you played on December 2nd and 3rd, the state playoff game. In 6A, Garnet Valley face off against St. Joseph's Prep, and then Harrisburg High School will face off against State College. And then moving on to the 5A round, we have I'm going to pronounce Amoda Charter. They face off against Upper Dublin, and then Pine Richland will face off against Casalico. And then in the 4A, Allentown Central Catholic will face off against Aliquippa, looking to defend their title. And then Crestwood will face off against Bishop McDevitt in the final 4A matchup.
Moving on now to the 3A matchup. Bell Vernon will take on Martinsburg Central, and in the other 3A, Wyomissing will take on Newman and Gorey in the 3A brackets. Westinghouse will take on a local foe as they'll go up against Steel Valley here Trinity High School from Cherry Hill, not to be confused with Trinity in Washington, Pennsylvania. That's Washington and Pennsylvania, Peyton, and Stilton and High Spear, and then Union and South Columbia. Canton will take on Stilton and High Spear in the 1A matchup, and Union, the WPIAL champion, will take on Port Allegheny at Clarion University in the other 1A matchup. And with that, folks, we just wanted to say a thank you for a great season. And John, it's been a fun time doing this with you. I'm glad I got to do this with you guys. I know we didn't get to do it over COVID because of weren't allowed on campus, but these last 2 years getting to talk high school football, something I knew very well, along with you, Peyton, and a few others, that we've got to see so much change in the area, and how many different teams have stepped it up. Couple surprises, couple Cinderella stories, and yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, it's been a great year, and like you said, it's just been an honor. I mean, this show has been going on for years and years now, so I've just been blessed and feel grateful to be a part of such an amazing production, amazing show. So thank you for not only letting me be a part of this, but thank everyone in the studio back there making this show go on as it does. So thank you all for helping us out, and then thank, like you put in there, thank you the fans for watching and tuning in and keeping tabs on us. We really appreciate it.
So for that, folks, we're going to wrap up the show here for our producer, Gary Smith and Tom Caton. The rest of our crew inside the studio, for my partner, John Sape, I'm John Sakaguchi. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and thank you for being here with us for this crazy ride of high school football this season. We'll see you again next season. Take care, everyone.